All right, and welcome back to The Light, powered by AtlanticCityFocus.com. And now it's time for our segment we call The Reading Room. We're here with author Turiya Abdur Rahim, who is the author of the book Growing Up in the Other Atlantic City. So I'm going to ask her to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about growing up in the other Atlantic City, what the book is about.
Okay. Greetings. Turiya S. Abdur Rahim, formerly known as Lillian D. Thomas. Born and raised in Atlantic City, but left for 36 years and came back here in semi-retirement and started teaching at Atlantic Cape Community College, mostly because I just love Atlantic City so much. I think it's a great place to grow up, a great place to live. It was a great place to work. And I also wanted to put the finishing touches on the book Growing Up in the Other Atlantic City, which is mainly about my family's seafood restaurant business, but also the black community, the historic black community that built Atlantic City, because our family still had Washes Inn on New Road in Pleasantville, but it was at that time starting to think about closing, and I wanted the younger generations to understand and to know what what my grandparents and their great-grandparents had gone through to create this family business and to keep going for 4 generations. I put the finishing touches on, finished the book. We had a nice little party, class of 72, family, close friends to Washes Inn, and I figured that would be the end of it. But Ralph Hunter, director of the African American History Museum of South Jersey, was at someone's backyard cookout and was describing historic black Atlantic City to a woman who happened to be a theater professor at Stockton. When they finished, Ralph said, "You need to read Turiya's book." So of course she says, "Who's Turiya?" He tells her about the book. She sends me an email and says, "This needs to be a play." I will be going on sabbatical soon, and I'm going to tell Stockton this is what I'm working on. We're going to take this book from the page to the stage. And that's what we did. So we had 5 sold-out shows at Stockton, 4 sold-out shows at Dante Hall in 2014. We actually brought it back in 2016 and had several sold-out shows at Dante Hall once again. That's enough.
All right, so what do you mean when you say the other Atlantic City?
When I say the other Atlantic City, I'm talking about the Atlantic City that I think a lot of people really don't know about. The residential side of the city. So many people that I talk to, even in 2025, don't realize that there's always been a residential neighborhood here. They think it's all about just the casinos, food, concerts, entertainment, but there's always been a beautiful and very close-knit African American neighborhood. I should say neighborhoods in the city. And those are the people who really, in generations past, built this city. No one else wanted those jobs. And after the Civil War, many blacks, of course, fleeing the terrorism of the South, they came north. And when they didn't want to go to New York, Baltimore, Philly, or they heard about jobs in this little seaside town, they would come here and work, and many of them ended up having homes, buying homes, and having businesses in Atlantic City, and those generations continue on today.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the segment of the show we're calling The Reading Room, and we're here with Turiya Abdur Rahim, who is the author of Growing Up in the Other Atlantic City. I grew up in Atlantic City that had quite a few businesses, not as many as maybe 20 years prior to me coming up, but there was Club Harlem. There was Sonny's Barbershop, Mr. Donnie's Barbershop. Best Fries was next door. Best Fries in town was next door at his wife's ice cream custard shop. So when you were growing up in the other Atlantic City, other than Wash's, what were some of your favorite businesses?
Snowden's had the best hot dogs in the city. I think that was the corner of Ohio and Arctic. The McCracken's had a hotel right across the street. Kelly's Chicken Wings, of course. Mary's Sub Shop, of course, historic. What do you call it? It's terrible. It's terrible. Sub Shop.
Delaware Sub Shop?
Delaware was still there, and also the most famous of them all, a White House, of course, yes. But what was fascinating to me is that pretty much you could go from diapers to your coffin and support a black business everywhere in between. That was the Atlantic City that I grew up with. We didn't even go on the so-called South Side for anything until probably in the, I want to say 60s, when my grandmother started taking me to Hamburgers and Lit Brothers on Atlantic Avenue. But before that, it was truly a self-contained community, because Atlantic City never had legalized segregation, but it had de facto segregation. So we had to depend on each other for everything: food, clothing, shelter, even ice, fish market, produce markets. Anything that you needed, you had to buy from another black person, because we didn't have any choice. And it ended up really creating a vibrant community and a wealthy community for many black people in generations, at a time when generations of blacks in other parts of the country maybe weren't doing as well. We were doing very well in Atlantic City.
Well, now it's 2025, about to be 2026. I was going to ask you, is there anything that we can learn from growing up in the other Atlantic City that can relate to today, or that somebody who's 14, 15, 16, 17 can relate to today?
Don't let people badmouth your hometown. It's the don't get involved in bad mouthing your hometown, and always stay engaged. People have to be engaged when they talk about, the casinos are for the tourists, or this program is for the tourists, or that's for the tourists. This city is for everybody. But you have to be engaged, and there's so much going on, so many good things going on. You don't hear a lot about all the good stuff that's happening in the schools, churches, masjids, synagogues. You just don't hear enough about the good stuff that's going on. And really, I think in some ways, the pandemic and the current national administration in Washington may, with all the negativity, brought a lot of people together who may not have ordinarily come together during these strenuous years. So you have to stay involved. You must vote. You must engage with different people, different communities around the city. If you want to see progress, that's the way the future is going to be.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we let you go?
I guess I'll be like President Obama. God bless America. God bless Atlantic City, New Jersey. God bless everybody who is within listening distance of this program. Thank you.
The book is called Growing Up in the Other Atlantic City. The author is Turiya Abdur Rahim. And I'm going to tell you now why I love this book. That's how we wrap up all of our interviews. There's several reasons why I love this book, but I grew up in an Atlantic City where many of the best stores, best restaurants, best clothing places no longer exist, but they can't take my memories. And fortunately for us, growing up in the other Atlantic City is a perfect well, I won't say it's a perfect documentation, but what it is the perfect documentation of how Turiya Abdur Rahim saw the Atlantic City that she grew up in. And so we get to look on and spy into what it was like for her to come of age and to see all these great businesses and all these great people. So not only do I recommend growing up in the other Atlantic City, whatever city you're from, I also recommend that you start jotting down little notes and documenting the great places that you love, because they may not be here anymore as well. For Turiya Abdur Rahim and the Reading Room, my name is Raymond Tyler. Thank you for listening.